Yeah, only 10 minutes late. Roll call, please. So we have 6:40 p.m. Roll call, please.
Ms. Van Barnson?
Here.
Ms. DeVoe?
Here.
Chairman Galtieri?
Here. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 231, New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the giving of notice to the Courier News, posting the agenda in the public lobby of this building 48 hours prior to this meeting, delivery of this notice to the Franklin Township Clerk at least 48 hours prior to this meeting, and mailing notice to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of meetings at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, meeting is open for public comments. Seeing no public here, is there a motion to close the meeting for public comments?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing the meeting for public comments, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, moving right along. Did everybody get a chance to review the working session monthly board meeting minutes from May 13th, 2019? And also the...
Executive, we're going to call for executive session.
Okay, so we'll hold off on the second part. So is there any questions or concerns about the working session meeting minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the working session meeting minutes from May 13th?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call please.
Ms. Van Barnson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. And we will take care of executive session.
After executive session.
Yep. All right, on to moving along. Executive summary, professional reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to, given that it's a primary night and some folks may want to partake in the civic duties, I'm going to try to move this along. So basically, all the projects are green except for Somerset Street. So I want to talk about Somerset Street, and I also want to bring you up to date on where we are on Hamilton Street, which I'll start with first. Hamilton Street is green. We did receive, the last few months I've been reporting, we've been waiting for the TWA extension. We did receive that, so we did receive that from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. We did have the bid opening on May 15th. It was actually one bid received from Delane Contracting. That bid was for $3,049,460. And then naturally, per the protocol that went to review by our attorney and by our engineering firm, and upon review, there, myself, Mike, Joe, and Eric had a conference call 2 nights ago, and we discussed that there were some questions that relative to the bid response that we would like to get answered. So I know that originally we were planning on awarding that contract tonight. What I'm asking for the board is that we defer that to July meeting, so that we can have a meeting which has been scheduled for June 19th. And then, assuming that all those questions get resolved, we would award the meeting at the July. Now, having said that, with the discussion with the chair immediately prior to this meeting, depending upon the outcome of a request, he may want to have a special meeting prior to that. That would be followed up. We would have April or someone from the board get in touch with you all to inform you of that if that was needed. But otherwise, the plan right now is to have that meeting with the contractor on June 19th, and then I would provide an update to the board chair to be passed on to the other board members.
Is there, I know that you all have busy schedules. Is there any chance to move that meeting up at all, or is that the best agreed upon time between you two?
That would to get the
everybody in the room.
Right, to get everybody in the room at the same time. And this is a meeting that I need to have Eric and Joe and Mike at.
Okay.
This isn't something that could be done without any of those.
Okay.
And given schedules that already have been set, that was the earliest that we could get that meeting to be at.
Okay, so just if everybody could be aware, just to not to keep calendars open, but this would be potentially, if we need to have a quick meeting, either the 20th or 21st, or the week of the 24th, the first 4 days. So just please be aware of that if we have to expedite it.
Let the record reflect Commissioner Chawari arrived at 7, probably 6:45.
All right, so now, moving on to Somerset Street, which is still reported as yellow. Basically, the target completion date is still, the overall completion date is still the middle of July. But I left it yellow because of discussions with Howard. The contractor kind of fell off his schedule, wasn't here. His on-site presence wasn't as to the level I expected it to be at that point last week. Then I escalated that matter to him personally, to Ralph, and then also additionally to Howard. And because of that, there was a meeting that Howard had today with Ralph. Scott would have been there, but due to a personal issue, Scott wasn't able to be in today, and hence I should have announced that he's not at the meeting. He's been excused. So I did have a brief conversation with Howard prior to the beginning of this meeting. So at this point, the expectation is that we will complete this by the middle of July, as I put in July 12th in our date. And as soon as I have a more detailed schedule, I will update you. But at this point, there are a number of items that still have to be worked at the pump station, within the manholes, and with the bus company. That all has to be laid out. Nothing significantly challenging. I mean, as this project is, it's still work that has to be done. It's just a matter of getting the contractor to be here a contiguous week or two so he can knock this off. Because that's ultimately what's left.
It's not a lot of work.
2 weeks worth of work if they've had a crew here every day.
10 days.
Okay. So again, overall, I did leave it yellow, but I also wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the fact that they did not meet the last schedule they gave me, and this then escalated that, and Howard had that face-to-face meeting.
So Howard, I'm just gonna ask 2 quick questions. One is everything done in the street that needs to be done, or are you waiting for answers on repairs?
I did hear back from Carl, so the contractor actually had a reasonable request since the milling and paving is proposed. We didn't want to just put down pavement that was just going to get milled up, so Carl indicated that it was acceptable to just concentrate our efforts where the temporary pavement is settled.
Okay.
And so we're going to be, that's part of one of the things that we want Grade to schedule. So that work in the street is what is the only thing that's remaining. There is a connection we need to make to a lateral, but that's not really in the street.
So then the second question is, if the water department, let's say, wants to go in next week, is there anything preventing the water department from easily going in the street that would would interfere with the contractor? Not that we're they're
Well,
ready
I
yet,
think that's a
but
little close for
Right,
the
yeah.
paving that he has to do. I would wait till he's done with his paving work, filling in the depressed areas.
no, okay. I was being a little hasty.
Yeah.
I know they're not ready, but in other words, is besides paving, because they're just going to have to rip up. There's nothing that would impact him
No.
if water wants to go in and start doing their work simultaneously now, so we can prepare for the fall.
Correct.
Then okay.
So my only suggestion there is that thinking about the residents of the street, I think we probably would want to wait until we're really done with our heavy machinery. I mean, there's still work that's
Oh
gonna
no,
be
I'm not
done.
talking about the paving. Right.
So, I wouldn't start the water work until we pretty much was wrapped up.
Right, and they're not gonna, they can't, not to the extent, they can't pave anyways, it has to settle for a certain amount of time, just like we have to, so it wouldn't be that we're paving
Yeah.
or anything.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that there's nothing that the contractor needs to do that would interfere with the water, or that the water would be blocking the contractor from being able to do
Well, I mean, listen, if the DPW has large equipment in the roadway and they need to get to Somerset Street
right.
to do something, yes,
Correct.
then it's gonna be
Okay,
in the way.
so
So I
let's
think what
just-
Brian is saying is probably their best to cool their jets. I mean, if it's imminent, and they're like, we wanna
No,
start
it's,
in
yeah,
the
it's
week.
not imminent. I know they still have to do some of the design work. It's just, it's more, okay, thank you.
All right, so I also, in the beginning of my report, failed to mention, so we will have an executive session this evening to discuss the potential TWA, treatment water application that we've discussed previously. Additionally, depending upon the answers to one of my discussion items when I go through salary administration, if there are questions based upon my recommendation, then we would have to have those questions asked and held until executive session. However, if you accept my proposal, then there would be no need to discuss those items in executive session. So that's fundamentally it for my report. All the other work is moving along. It was really good news to have, Foxwood finish up. Just in doing that research, just kind of as an FYI, in May we received 7 inches of rain, which is slightly little under twice what was expected in the average May month. In the first 2 weeks of May, we received 4.25 inches of rain. So it was as this whole period been for Foxwood and also for Somerset, but particularly for the work that we were doing on this project in Foxwood, the amount of rain that we had taken between November to this whole period, practically every month was almost twice the average rain that we experienced. I think February was the only one that came under. So it was a significant amount of work, a significant amount of rain in that period, but then also the amount of work. And what we do know, and is a very good sign, is that the issue that we had seen of overflows on Easton, we have not seen since the water main breaks have been fixed in February. So I'm very confident that the work that we have done here on this project in Foxwood has addressed the I&I issues within that neighborhood. And I think that that's, overall very good for project for the authority to talk about. All right, so moving on to my executive director report. Again, all the reports are attached, the revenue report, expense report, and the cash position, so they're there for your reviews. I will, at the end of our meeting next month, go and give a more detailed analysis of the fiscal year closing and the expenditures, the overs and the unders, to take you through that. Though, if you recall, given the last couple of months and taking you through the budget, we really did step through those items in preparation for the budget that is in effect now, starting June 1st. But I will have a more detailed analysis of that at the July meeting. So some discussion items. The fiscal year 20 budget was submitted and officially filed with the DCA, so that's all done. The connection fee did increase. We voted on that the last month. And then I also have, for handouts, or did they get already passed around?
Yeah, they're getting passed around.
Okay.
So they ended
the
up
connection
here.
fee status reports?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, it's okay. It's,
Kristen, do you have a copy for me?
Yep.
here, one.
So, I'll talk while it's going around. So, over the years, you have always heard about the connection fee, and it's been a number. And as you know, that we revised, a few months ago, we revised down the number of connection fees. The original target was 590, somewhere around December or January, we revised that number down because we knew we weren't going to hit that, and that number became 391. Well, actually, for fiscal year, at the end of the year, we hit the number 490. That was mostly due because Amazon came in and paid all their connection fees, And that wasn't on the original, that actually was a late developing one, that wasn't on the beginning of the year. So we did come over the 391 significantly and hitting 490. Now, having said that, what I've assigned to my staff engineer, and you've all met Christian before at the table here, that at some level, you may have thought like this was kind of a number picked out of the air and said, okay, we're going to attempt to hit this number. And in reality, that since I've gotten here, I've worked with Christian to, okay, let's ensure that our board of directors, our commissioners, understand the number that we've come up with and how we're going with that. So now you have one of your sheet that says the connection fee FY20. So this basically is the expectation for this year for the connection fees, who's going to come in and when. We've kind of divided it up into the end of this, halfway through the fiscal year, which is the end of 2019, 12/31. I've got two buckets, May and December of 2019 and May of 2020. Now, they'll probably come in at different times, but this is just to give you an idea of who we think is going to come in before the end of the year, and then those that will come in before the end of the fiscal year. So this number, now if you recall, the number I submitted to the budget was $1 million for connection fee, and if you recall, I took you through that as that was a running average of the last 3 years, right? Because obviously it kind of moves. So independently now, Christian came up with this and, you know, took the input from the town, and that number is 372 units, and that number comes in at 1,066,152. So it's very close to what I put into the budget without all the details having at that time. So I think that that's a good signal to, you know, I'm hoping not to have the amount of volatility that we had last year with the number that we came in with. So this will become a regular standard report now. I will give you an update. That way you can see where we're coming in. And we're actually ahead of the gate this morning. This afternoon I assigned connection. Somebody that wasn't even on the radar showed up and submitted to Christian for 12 or 13. So we're already out of the gate, a little ahead of the curve.
So Brian, sorry, I guess I'm a little, the ones that, for where it says fiscal year 19, if it has a payment date in the future, those they did not actually connect as we expected, and they'll probably be sometime this year.
I'm sorry, which sheet are you looking at?
The fiscal year 2019.
Right.
Like looking at line 4, 5, 6, they're all in the future.
So yeah. So sorry, maybe that's a little. We thought, like, I guess it's the one Summerfields, right? They ended up paying 4 units in 19.
Okay.
And their prediction. So Christian, actually, I missed that. Why does that have it's September 30th, 29?
So we basically revised the connection fee halfway through it, and when we revised it, we realized it wasn't going to be in this financial quarter,
Okay.
so we just projected it for the next quarter,
Right.
the next financial year.
But the total that's in the units paid, that's the number that got paid.
Okay.
So that 490
Is a true number.
is
the
a
rest,
true number, yes.
And then were those moved? Okay, so I see they were moved then
Right,
into the next year's.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so again, this will be a standard report ongoing, so that way you can see how it's tracked versus just a number. All right. So the salary administration, part of your resolutions tonight is one, a salary administration for the COA increase. That is, you know, part of the sewage authority compensation plan. The other is the individual resolutions for the raises to the administrative and office staff. And what I would like you all to do is to, you know, to be able to vote on that in open session to move forward. Basically what the process has been is that I met with April And prior to her reviewing her staff that reports to her, her direct reports, we went over them each individually. And then she met with them and gave them their ratings. On top of that, I met with my direct reports, Kristen and April and Scott, and I went through a performance evaluation for that. So based upon that, I've submitted in the individual resolutions my proposal for their raises. Basically, if they met expectation, it's a 2% raise, and if they exceeded, it's a 3.5. So if you have individual questions about that, then we will have to deal with that in executive session. But my hope is that as executive director of the authority, you put me in this position that, given that I've done due diligence, which, by the way, my direct staff, they have not had a performance evaluation in a number of years previously. So this was the first time that they were going through that in a few years. That the hope is that you understand I took this to a very detailed and thorough performance evaluation, and I present to you, like I said, in those resolutions, my recommendations for the individual ratings. So if you don't have any questions, then we can vote on that as part of the standing resolution. I've also asked Eric, do we have to vote on those individually? And he said, no, we can vote on them. You don't have to vote individually on each resolution. We can group them together so that way they can all be treated in one resolution, correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Thank you. All right, the next on on my report is the development agreement status on that. So basically, last month, the only update I want to give to you is regarding the Sycamore developers, and we'll deal with that in executive session. So there's also a resolution for the Passaic County to join the Passaic County Cooperative. So this is some research that April had done and then spoke to Scott about. It doesn't cost anything to join. It's a cooperative that's been approved by the state, and basically this cooperative has very good pricing on pump station parts that Scott actually uses. So April and Scott discussed this, and their recommendation to me was that we join it. I support that recommendation, and there's a resolution for you to authorize us joining that. There is no cost to the authority to join. Summer intern, we have done an interview on our summer intern, and we have selected one. That person is going through a background check. That's why I'm not sharing the name at the moment, but the expected start of that is June 10th. So I want to talk a little about that. I was very excited about this, as you know, from the beginning when I initiated that. I thought that as a sewage authority, we should start encouraging our college students to get excited by this field. I can honestly say I didn't know anything about this field when I was in college. It wasn't even on my radar. So I'm very excited about this. The interview, we had 15 candidates that applied. We reviewed the 15 were reviewed the resumes initially by April and Christian, and then Christian and I met to go over it to narrow that down to 5 based upon the analysis of their resume and the qualifications that we were looking for. So then interviews were set up with all 5, one due to some family issues where it was, and was out of the state, was not able to get back during the time that we were doing the interview, so an interview was done with 4. That was done, and then based upon April and Christian's recommendation, we narrowed it down to 2, and I participated in the final interview of the final 2 candidates, and then the one candidate was selected. I do want to say for the one that we didn't select, I was very impressed by this individual, and will be revisiting you later on this summer about some potential thoughts for growing this internship position here at the authority. Again, I really can't stress the fact of how critical, when I went to the AEA conference and saw the average age of the individuals in that room were closer to my age than they were to Christian, that this is a serious issue that this state will face with not having and encouraging younger individuals. When I was at my last company, which was Ericsson, but Telcordia Technologies, for most of my career, due to constraints, budgetary constraints, and what happened in the late 90s and the crash in the 20s, our company grew that our average age was pushing like 46 or 48. You cannot survive that, you cannot sustain that. And because of that, and looking at what was happening at AEA, I really am personally taking this as an effort of mine to really drive this. I really would like to see it because, you know, the future of this field is really around, the individuals like Christian at his age, not at mine, or for the most part anybody else around this. Many people will have a career still for a while. I'm not trying to put anybody out the pasture, but I am saying that we have to find ways, and that can only be done at the local level. So that's my effort to push that, and we'll bring to you further ideas about extending this internship in other ways. All right. As part of that and tied to it really is that, as I mentioned, we're going to do some office reconfigurations. We're going to take the individual offices, the 2 individual offices, and reconfigure them into 2-person office. So that process has started.
Sorry, Christian, you're losing the window seat.
It's all good.
He's losing a big desk and a big bookcase that's not used. As part of that, not part of it, but in parallel with that, I've mentioned to you that our archiving process has just been terrible here at the authority. We have a storage room up there that has not been cleaned out in decades. We have records that go back 11, 14 years. So I mentioned to you in one of my previous meetings that I've had Christian take on that assignment, and working with one of the staff people assigned to April, we have a plan in place, and shredding will occur. But in doing that, we're also redoing our own internal office, and we're freeing up a lot of space. So I'm trying to take advantage of just kind of doing the basics, cleanup and archiving here, so that way we have the appropriate space, and then get everyone, and the move will be, because I no longer will sign new projects with getting 5 hard copies of everything, where it's going to be on a thumb drive. I get 1 or 2 hard copies, and the rest are on a thumb drive, so that way this information can be stored digitally versus in file cabinets. So that's moving along. Additionally, as I reported out, the security aspect of improving the security concerns I've had about here since I've come. We have negotiated with a contractor for the security glass out in the entranceway here, and then we have we did bring in somebody based upon the budget being approved to do security analysis on that, and for obvious reasons, I'm not going to go into the details what that is, but we're upgrading
Quick question.
that. Sure.
For records that you were talking about archiving and so on, it just came to me that what is the requirement for the records?
So that's an excellent question. So the requirements are different based upon the type of information
Right.
it is. So we've started to look at that. The financial is 7 years worth of record keeping. Some of the other information is actually a little longer. We do have April looking at that, and prior to anything being shredded, we're going to ensure that we can dispose of it. Some of the plans, the big specification plans that are way big, we've already started receiving them in digital form, and for the ones that make sense, we're going to negotiate, go into contract with somebody to come in and digitize those based upon our needs. But that process takes a while, and obviously it takes staff's time, and that's part of the plan that Christian has with one of our staff that reports to April. So It's a process. I'm hoping that, I think the timeline is having completed this somewhere along October, because of the fact that, you know, we're doing this in addition to all our other processes that we were responsible for. So that's it on the security update. I am also going through the process that Scott, my operations manager, actually has never had a credit card for the sewage authority. I have that because fundamentally the two emergency call-outs at night that have required multiple staffs that we've reported, that they need to eat, and you know, you need to be able to have a credit card to apply. I've been there. I was there once where, you know, I had my credit card to do it, and another time, like, they were, you know, passing around the bucket to get cash from the guys at site to figure out how to get dinner. So obviously, when someone's on call and it's emergency like that, I'd like that to flow, and that obviously can happen a lot easier if Scott has a credit card.
Once he gets the card, there will be no more emergencies. We'll be good.
Yes,
Is there
so
is
that
there a limit on-
Yes, 25.
I do expect that to happen.
Yeah, he threw put in $2,500 limit on it.
Also, there's a resolution for the last one here. Is it the Bank of, or is it just
Just
enough?
enough.
Okay, so signatures is going around for the Bank of New York for our certificate and authorized members. The callbacks they're calling that. So some of you will need to sign that. Obviously, you know, with changes in our chair and our vice chair positions that had to be updated. So that's going around for yours. All right, so that's for the most part it. The resolutions tonight in front of you will cover all 6 accounts: our payroll account, our operating expense account, our general fund, our renewal and replacement, our North Track crossing, and our escrow. And then there's additional resolutions for the deal with Marcy Street, the member participation in the Passaic County that I told you about, the COA, and so I've walked you through all that. So for the most part, that is it on my report. Naturally, if you have any questions, feel free at this point to ask. If there are no questions, I will actually give a brief overview of the operations report.
Any questions for the executive director?
All right, so as I said, Scott was excused tonight for personal issues. So basically, again, the main thing in his report to announce is that, yes, the Foxwood Rehab Project the work is completed. The final work was completed on May 28th. And in there, he summarized what I kind of just taken you through with the amount of rain. But during this area, that there were 11 water main breaks that were repaired during that process. So, you know, you recall that as part of my 5-year plan, I had what we termed as Foxwood Phase 2. Again, that's in that same development. I think it's, you know, imperative that the board remain focused on the improvement there, because that area is as old as, in fact, it's my first neighborhood when I moved down to here on Johnson Road, Berger, Labed, and the other side of Appleman. So all that area really needs to be looked at. So we're very happy about the work that was completed, very happy with the work of our contractor, National Water Main. They were very responsive and worked very, there was good teaming between them, my team, and CME. So all around, very happy about that. And the other thing that Scott had is that we continue to make progress on our 2-year wide gravity sewer flushing. We're about 19% to our goal. And there was training this month where we sent 3 of our maintenance staff to Pumping Services Incorporated, who's a vendor of authority, but they also did training on a lot of the equipment that we used. They gave training on that equipment. So again, that was very helpful. And as I mentioned, that we did we did exceed our revised connection fee for the month. And then on an ongoing basis, anytime you see that number as a half, know that that half is always associated with some affordable housing calculation. So half the time it will end up being half, the other half it will round up to being a whole, so you'll see that. So again, that is about it on Scott's report. If anybody has any questions regarding that, please feel free to ask me on that.
All right, so it looks like you did a repair from damage on 9th Street. Did we get an answer from DPW about paving of Campus Drive?
About paving on campus.
So
So no, at this point, the expectation is that we've paid that and we're not, I don't know if your question is going to widen that, like, was I planning on
Do
going
we
back
have
and
to do
doing the
more?
50
Yeah.
foot? No. So that's not my expectation.
Okay. Because after we had this meeting, I had a public works meeting right after that and said, please give us an answer immediately.
Right, so.
And so it's been a month. Yeah.
So with that, I'm going with, that's not my expectation that I have to do anything more, and that I'm done. If DPW feels that they want more, then they have to get in touch with me and let me know.
To communicate with you.
Yes, they do.
Okay. And unfortunately, our DPW meeting has been postponed until the end of the month, so it's not like, they'll try to put it on the radar, but not too flash.
And just in case my tone, because I know we're being recorded, that I was saying that sarcastically, I want to be clear, I'm not. My communication with Carl and DPW over since I've been here has been very good.
Oh, no,
So generally, I'm sure that if Carl, wanted me to do that, he would have reached out to me. So that's why I'm saying the expectation is that I have not heard from Carl, because usually if there's any questions or concern calls have, we have a very good report.
It was, it was exactly what
Yeah,
he was asked about it, and it was brought up, and it was openly discussed amongst, in the committee, and we'll leave it at that. I have one other question before, going back, sorry, I'm stepping back a little bit. The budget report, you said, that's the actual numbers through May 31st, or is that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And again, with everything else going on, and at the close of the fiscal year, so close to this board meeting,
Right.
I didn't really, sit down.
That's fine.
to
So
do
that,
the
and I'm
analysis.
sure there were some, we'll do a better you said we'll go through in July or August, depending on. All right. Any other questions about operations or for the executive director? Anybody want to stump the executive director on something?
No, it's good.
Again, a retreat. All right.
So, my streak is intact.
Okay, you good? Okay. All right, so moving right along. Committee reports, so we'll have executive session, but
Yes,
you,
it will be a brief one.
okay, do you
Correct.
need, that one resolution, do we need to discuss that first in executive session, or or can we do it ahead of time?
Which resolution?
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I have the right one. Amendment to 2016 salary guide.
I would suggest, if anyone has a problem with that, then yes. If no, then I would suggest that the board take that resolution out of turn and do that before the others, so that we have it at least in place, so that we can take care of the other issues.
Okay.
But we'll get to that, Mr. Chairman, when we get to resolutions, no off consent.
Okay. So other than that, there's nothing else for negotiation personnel. Municipal liaison. The only thing I would like to thank again the authority for hosting the household hazardous waste on June 15th.
Coming up, yes.
It is greatly appreciated on behalf of the municipality.
That's the hazardous June 5th. I
I've
think
already-
they've scheduled, though I don't know if I've officially been told, I think they've scheduled the
Paper shredding?
paper shredding one, and I've heard by people calling us, residents saying, hey, are you doing this? And I'm like, I'm not aware I am. I know that there was a potential, but, so I have to get that in our book. I don't know if that that's on our calendar. I know we're well aware of the hazardous.
You know, Commissioner Barrison, I think, will be seeing the clerk within the next hour or so. Maybe we'll, in the midst of everything going on, we'll ask her and remind her. We'll make sure that Anne Marie gets the confirmation over for you. But yes, thank you again for hosting. And no, it was not all of our paper that will be going into the county shredding bins on July. Also, we have an independent service coming in. I just wanted to highlight that. That we
Very
are
good.
okay. Construction.
I have nothing to,
Okay. And safety, another good month. So let's keep the
Yes.
streak going.
There was no safety issues, right?
Okay.
he didn't have so many,
Yeah, it said 0.
There were no accidents or injuries for the month, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of them.
Okay. Moving right along to consent agenda. The approval of the resolutions will be done by consent agenda. All the items listed below are considered to be of routine nature, thereby requiring one motion and 1 second for all items. If any member wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda, please advise me at this time which resolution needs to be handled separately, or if you have any questions, and they will be addressed and voted on separately. We have one for the payroll account of $231,833.23. The operating expense account of $127,332.28. The general fund of $15,338.36. The renewal and replacement account of $15,137.75. The North Track crossing of $3,914.12. And the escrow account of $1,560. Anything need to be pulled, voted on separately? Any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, we can pay our bills. All right, now on to additional resolutions. For each item, we will need a motion and a second and a vote.
The resolution 0604-2019-7, authorizing the executive director to execute a professional services contract with CME Associates for the North Crossing Marcy Street area.
Any questions on this one? Okay, is there a motion?
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari? And
Yes.
Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Resolution number 8, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution for professional services with CME for the Hamilton Street Pump Station Service Area.
Okay, any questions on this? Okay, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
This is to authorize the execution of said contract for the executive director and the secretary. Number 9. Is the resolution authorizing the Sewerage Authority to enter into a cooperative pricing agreement in the Passaic County Cooperative Pricing System ID number 38 PCCP.
Is this, I guess my only question about this is this for, and I'm sorry that I didn't ask this before, is this specifically for any parts, or is this for anything under their co-op agreement?
It's to be a member for anything under the club,
Okay.
but specifically for us for the Flight brand.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that resolution number 11 be taken out of order prior to resolution number 10. Resolution number 11 is to amend the salary guidelines for several positions by increasing the maximum amount. Those are regarding the operations manager, the administrative manager, and I believe the staff engineer.
I'm sorry? There were 3 of them, right? The
Operations.
operations, administrative, and accounts
Accounts
receivable.
receivable.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on this?
I have one question. So the salaries, have there been any, like a study with other authorities, and are they in line with?
Good question. So what I should have mentioned earlier is that in doing that analysis, I ran out of time to complete the analysis of all the positions. So based upon what I was doing for this salary administration period, for salary compensation period, I've amended those individual ones that I needed to work with. We'll look at the bigger picture for next year. It does have to be looked at. I think the authority has to step back and review the way that it handles overall salary compensation as a package. I think we may have to look at how we do that.
That's for non-union employees.
For non, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Obviously, good point, clarification. Union salaries are handled by the contract.
Collective.
All right. Any other questions on this? You okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
All right, with the adoption of Resolution 11, we can now do Resolution number 10, which is a recommendation from the Executive Director to the Board to grant a 2% pay increase effective June 1, 2019 to the 7 individuals set forth in the resolution.
Okay.
These are all non-union employees, other than the Executive Director.
All right. Is there any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Resolutions number 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 are all for individual, and these are my words, adjustment raises for the various non-union individuals other than Mr. Nacero, I believe, no, even for him, I don't know, for the six positions in question, and as per the recommendation of the Executive Director, unless anyone has questions, and the specific one to take all the resolutions in one motion.
If anybody has questions about this, then we would have to bring it into executive session.
And all these people have been raised.
Yes.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
This is for all the resolutions I just listed and combined. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
That, Mr. Chairman, takes care of all the resolutions for this evening.
Okay. I believe we need to go into
We need an executive session for two matters. One involves ongoing negotiations of and collective bargaining relative to Sycamore developers, and the other is a personnel matter involving the executive director, who this month has been right.
Yes.
All right. We did it right this time.
We did it right the last
Yes,
time.
you did it right.
Okay.
But for the record,
Yes. For the record, it was all handled
it was
perfectly
handled,
fine.
it was handled properly at the last time with
Yes.
Mr. Regan waiving his right
Yes.
to receive said notice.
Okay. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
We expect this to hopefully be no more than 15 minutes, and formal action may be taken.
I have 7:29.